Hello, my name is Austin Belzer, and welcome back to the Austin B Media Podcast. Today I'll be discussing Dune Part 2 with my guest, Ayla Ruby, editor in chief of Movies We Texted About. Ayla also writes for sites like the Cosmic Circus, Offscreen Central, and CherryPicks. For
Hi
those who,
guys.
hi, and for those who haven't been caught up on the podcast, we actually talked about another movie. We talked about Spider Man Across the Spider Verse. I'll include the link in the show notes. So go check that out if you haven't. Really love that episode. We're both members of the International Film Society of Critics, which we just announced our winners. I have that list on the website, just posted it a couple days ago as of this recording. So check that out. But Isla, welcome back to the podcast.
Yay, I'm
Uh,
excited to be here. And I'm really excited that you mentioned our critics group because I don't know, I feel like people really should go and check that list out on your website because we've righted maybe some wrongs and had some interesting picks there.
Yeah, I think we're the only group that had Barbie nominated in a lot of categories,
Hmm.
but totally underperformed and Past Lives overperformed.
Yep.
I don't want to say overperformed, but it did very well. Every time I voted for it, I was like, "Oh, this isn't going to win." And then I looked at the winners list and I was like, "Oh, it okay."
And something that shocked me actually from our list was Iron wasn't there, I don't think.
Uh
And I
it
was
was it
was
was
it cut out?
nominated.
Yeah, it was
Uh,
nominated because I remember seeing it and maybe voting for it. But yeah, I was just really shocked that it didn't get any love, given our chats.
Yeah, all in our WhatsApp group chat for the group, everyone when it came out, people were talking about it, so I'm surprised Efron, who did get nominated, didn't show up anywhere, so
Mhm.
interesting. But yeah, before we get into Dune Part 2, which for those wondering who haven't seen Dune Part 2 yet, like always, like our Across the Spider-Verse podcast, we're gonna be formatting this in both, "Hey, let's just talk spoiler free," and then we'll have a spoiler filled section where we get to freeform talk about it without fear of spoilers. Obviously, before we get into spoilers, we'll obviously give our ratings and stuff like that, so that if you need to dip out, since you if you haven't seen part 2 yet, we'll give you that opportunity. But before that, Isla, is there any movie, show, album, anything you wanna recommend before we get started?
Yes, actually, and I think this podcast will probably air after the embargo drops today. So I just saw Kung Fu Panda 4, and I'm
Nice.
gonna talk about it later too, 'cause it there's a connection to Dune somehow, believe it or not. But it
Oh,
was really
interesting.
cute, really sweet, and Jack Black is amazing as always, so go see Kung Fu Panda 4.
Y I'm gonna shock everyone on the podcast right now. I have never seen any of the Kung Fu Panda movies.
That's
I
actually the Dune connection for me. I haven't either, and I haven't seen Dune
Oh,
Part
okay.
1. Fresh eyes into the story.
Maybe I should just go into part 4 of Kung Fu Panda and be like, "I know nothing." Be like that one commentator YouTube channel who only sees the first and last episodes of everything, except for this time, I'm just going in blind for Kung Fu Panda 4.
So you
That would be
totally should.
hilarious.
Because it
Yeah.
works, and I think that's, like, a real strength of the movie, like, they set it up so beautifully, and it has this a whole new direction, and I think yeah, you don't have to have seen the previous ones, it's not Marvel, you don't have to have seen what is it, many days of your life watching shows and movies.
Yeah, it's not like Toy Story 4 where you need to have seen all 3 before, and then you also need to seen Toy Story of Terror and what was it? Toy Story That Time Forgot, Small Fry, all those. You didn't need to
Mhm.
see all those. But I guess that brings us into our Dune Part 2 conversation, not Dune Part
We'll
1.
have Dune Part 1, but
I
it'll be a
mean, we
short one.
can, but Dune Part 1 does play a role in this. Now, you told me that you have not seen Dune Part 1, so I
Correct.
wanna talk about that. Yeah, just let's just talk about that.
Oh, no.
W you it's
Why right now?
yeah, why it's clearly in Dune Part 1, there is a Part 1 at the opening titles, and then in this, Part 2. So, what made you wanna see Part 2, but not Part 1?
And we talked about in the pre-show a little bit about time, and we talked about Invincible, we talked about The Brother Sun. There's a lot of stuff out there, and for me, I didn't see Dune Part 1 in 2021, I think it was, just I guess it was the
Yeah.
pandemic, I don't know, I didn't see it in theaters, and I just never made the time to see it at my house. And then by that point, it had gotten so far away from me that I just wanted to go and see the new one.
Yeah, it's interesting because the only way I've seen part 1 is at home.
Mhm.
I saw it on the then called HBO Max, now called Max.
It'll have
Um,
another change, another name in a couple of days. Just wait.
oh, I'm sure CNN Max plus minus 1. Yeah, I saw part 1 on HBO Max on a 1080p screen. It was or maybe it was on the screen, I don't know. And I wished I had seen it on a bigger screen because
Oh,
we'll talk about it later on, when we get to the IMAX section, because that's how I saw part 2 is in IMAX at
yep.
because I think the screen's 29 by 35 meters,
It's
when I
massive.
saw it. Yeah, it's one of those true IMAX screens, but we'll get into that later. I loved part 1. I wrote I I forget the exact word count, but it's over 2,000 words. It's my longest review
Wow.
in the history of my reviews. I love it. I did a lot of research for that. Ironically, though, I didn't read the book. I just did the 1984 David Lynch movie,
Oh, with Sting,
um,
right?
with Sting, yeah, and then watched Dune Part 1 and then did some online research for my review of Dune Part 1. Also, Overdrive. Could my library just give me the audiobook of Dune? Why do I need to wait for a audiobook? It's a digital file, just send it to me. But
Yep.
anyhow, and I think a lot of that criticisms go back and read the review for anyone who hasn't seen it. That a lot of my criticism or praise for that movie revolves around the religious connotations of it, the Islamic connections, and things like that. So I was really expecting more of that in part 2, and wow, I was not let down. They go in on it.
That's a
But
function, and I know you haven't got the book yet, right
mhm,
there, but I think that's a function of how Herbert wrote it as well, because he wanted to connect to this grand sci-fi epic to modern conflicts and modern, like I guess modern at the time for him issues that are still relevant today.
yeah, but yeah, I went into part 2 super stoked to see what they did with how part 1 ends with this is only the beginning and that tease of, "Okay, what's gonna happen next?" Because again, the only context I had was the 1984 movie, which is famously rushed. Things happen in part 2 that happened just in the first Dune Lynch movie. Do you have any other experiences with Dune outside of this?
I think we talked about it a little bit. So I had seen the '84 movie. Oh, that doesn't feel like 1984. And I mentioned Sting as the equivalent character. Someone we'll get into later on. I don't think it's a spoiler, but yeah, I had seen the older science fiction stuff, and I wasn't terribly impressed, sadly.
Mhm.
So maybe that impacted a little bit about my hype for this Dune. When I had read the first book, I didn't read all of the 6 Frank Herbert books. I think there are 6.
Yeah.
So I just read the first one, which, by the way, I love that you plugged Overdrive in your library. I think everyone should go use their library because amazing resources, but that's not related.
Yeah, I'm still waiting on those Percy Jackson audiobooks,
One day,
but
but they'll
one
be free.
day I just wish Overdrive would fix their system a little bit, so if it'll recognize that, "Hey, this is a audiobook and a series of audiobooks. Don't send me the last book in the
Yeah,
audiobook first. Send me the first, then the second, then the third." But yeah, use your library card. It could save you a lot of money.
it can.
Canopy is one of the best streaming services out of there,
So
and it
many
comes
TV
free.
shows and movies too on there, and it's just amazing. But Dune isn't there. I don't think the '84 version is there. I don't
Um,
know how you'd find that if it's on Prime or
I
Netflix at
I
this point.
think it was on Hoopla is where I
Oh,
watched it.
okay.
Either that or I just rented it, but I knew some version of Dune is on one of the streaming services that my library provides.
Oh, even better. So
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, I think the 1984 version really contributed to my lack of maybe excitement for the first Dune and this too, which is sad, but that's how it goes.
Yeah, I feel like after watching Dune Part 1 and then watching the 1984 David Lynch version, I'm like, "Oh, okay. So there's no way Part 2 could be worse than this." Good. Awesome. So it's a pretty low bar, but that's
Exceeded
all right.
all expectation.
Yeah, I don't think I needed to. Yeah, I if I say what I want to say, it's a spoiler. But
It's so hard. I wrote out like my text for our questions, and I'm like, but there are spoilers.
yeah, I feel like a lot of what I want to talk about is in the spoiler discussion. So
Let's move on. Yeah.
yeah, let's move on. So, what did you think of part two?
So it was amazing. It's not a modest movie, it's not a shy movie. It's like just it's filmmaking on just such a grand scale. It's an epic scale. There's a quote, I don't remember who said it and if it was in parody or what, but like this is cinema, right? This is just an unapologetic blockbuster. I don't know
Martin
if it's
Scorsese.
exactly perfect. But I don't know if it's like a cultural event on the same level as Endgame and if it will seep into the consciousness as much, but that's hard to achieve. But it's just mind blowing. I love cinematography. I love making. And what this film did for me, I was really blown away by the cinematography of Greg Fraser, playing with color and light, different environments. And I have to avoid spoilers, but it's just fantastic.
Yeah, bringing up the end game thing, I think it's on that same like cultural relevance because the amount of memes I've seen on Threads, because that's practically the only social media I actively check is
Mhm.
Threads, and then TikTok at night is the Stilgar memes. Is I see
Mhm.
that everywhere. But yeah, I really liked part two. I think it surpasses part one in some
Oh,
ways. Uh,
interesting.
and that's partially because I think part one's weakness was that I think it was just trying to be a setup movie. It
Mhm.
wasn't trying to be like, "Oh, this is the complete story." And I think that's what makes part 2, like, really work is it's 2 halves of a whole. I think everyone does well character-wise. I think even Austin Butler and Christopher Walken do well, even though I thought they would just do what they're known for. Austin Butler coming in with an Elvis voice and just taunting Timothy Chalamet, and then Christopher Walken be like, "My Dune, my Arrakis, my planet." That's what I thought the movie was gonna be like, but no, they take them very seriously, which I really appreciated. Obviously, Florence Pugh is great. I wish she got a little bit more screen time than she did because I feel like the marketing was really hyping her character up to be like, "Oh, this is like the big central character."
Mhm.
And even Denis talks about her being on equal footing as Chani, as to how Chani was used in part one. And I just felt, oh, not really. They
Mhm.
don't really use her as much as they do in part one, meaning Princess Irulan.
Yeah.
And if I mispronounce anything, y'all, just look, I'm gonna mispronounce it.
Yeah, same here. I will make many mistakes. We talked about this in the pre-show, and
Yeah,
just be ready. We're trying.
we're trying real hard. These Some of these things are really hard to pronounce. If you only hear me say Denis, that's why.
The
Um,
director.
the director, the protagonist. But the only major knock I have against it, and I think I'll get into the specifics specifically in spoilers, but I really feel like this was the first Denis movie I would have knocked 30 minutes off of.
Oh, that's
Um,
interesting.
because there are subplots that don't get the room to breathe that they desperately need. There's a late third act twist that I'm not going to spoil. That is a pretty huge revelation, and it's just oh yeah, that it's mentioned and it's done.
Yeah,
And
but it has bigger implications going forward, and it's gonna have a lot of stuff attached to
sure,
it going
sure.
forward for
I guess I
Dune
just
Messiah.
that moment would have gotten a bigger thing.
Yeah.
And there and specifically where I thought it'd end isn't where it ends. It goes on
Mhm.
for another 30 minutes after that, and I'm like, "I don't need to see these last 30 minutes." I feel like these last 30 minutes, you plop into the next Dune movie, and they work spectacularly to kick off the movie, especially given how part 2 starts. But yeah, that's the only knock I have really against it. Everyone does really well. New characters do really well. Cinematography, I saw this on IMAX. I think I also have a gripe with the cinematography because, of course, I do. I'm a cynic.
No, I need to hear this. I'm so curious.
I hate the filmed for IMAX versus filmed with IMAX mantra because I
Okay.
even had an online argument about this on a Discord server. If I if something is filmed for IMAX, in my head, I'm going, "Oh, this is, like, meant to be seen in IMAX. This is gonna
Mhm.
take full advantage of the entire screen." I forget what the entire aspect ratio is for
Yep.
true quote, unquote, "true IMAX," but this entire movie not wasn't in IMAX. There were scenes where it goes down to I think what would be the letterboxed,
Yeah.
aspect ratio, and I'm like, "Dude, come on. I people are paying extra for this. If you filmed it with IMAX cameras, just fill up the whole screen."
Yep.
I
And
don't get Go ahead.
that was an intentional choice too, especially with Dune Part 1, and I think from what I read in Part 1, the director made the choice to film interior scenes not in IMAX, and all of the exterior scenes were filmed with the IMAX gear, and I think Part 2, there was more IMAX stuff in it than Part 1.
Yeah, I guess the thing that frustrates me the most is there's this, like, huge epic battle, and you see an IMAX, and you're
Mhm.
like, "Oh, wow, this is great." And then the next scene, you see a shot of a desert mouse, and then it's
The
like
Muad'Dib, right?
yeah, the Muad'Dib. And it's just, "Dude, come on. Why am I seeing this in letterbox ratio? I can literally see the sand all around me." Like, it's not there's something you need to be doing to make it work. I know it's like a minor complaint, but when IMAX tickets are like $18,
Yep.
I don't feel like that price was particularly justified. I love Greg Fraser.
I'm not
Um,
sure how to pronounce it. I know how it's spelled, but
yeah, I love his cinematography and everything he's done. I just question the use of the language, like, filmed for IMAX versus filmed
mhm,
with IMAX, because I legitimately thought when it said I forget if it says filmed for IMAX or filmed with IMAX,
mhm.
but I was expecting something similar to Oppenheimer where it's, like,
Yep.
the whole screen. So, I
That's
was
a
a bit
valid point.
let down.
And I think it's also why precision matters in language and communication. You went in expecting something and you didn't quite get that bill of goods.
Yeah, and it's just a nitpicky thing for me, along with the the thing being the pacing being a bit off.
Yep.
But other than that, those are small things that I think really don't knock it too much. I'm not gonna knock it down to a 2 star because, "Oh, it didn't use the whole screen," or, "Oh, it didn't end when I thought it would end." I
I'm
think I Go ahead.
I'm so reluctant to give anybody 2 stars because it's so hard to get a movie made. I feel like for me, the bare minimum is 2.5 stars. You completed this thing, you got through it. Congratulations.
I've rated 2 movies 1 star this year.
Ooh, what
Um,
not to get too off track, but I am curious which ones.
the 2024 adaptation of Mean Girls from the
We
Broadway musical,
we
which I saw
talked about that.
yesterday, and then the Jennifer Lopez This Is Me Now, uh,
Oh,
which technically isn't a movie, but it's long enough to be a movie, so I'm counting it.
oh. It's like a weird video that
Yeah,
I watched that too, and I reviewed it, and it was an experience and very experimental. That's the best way to put it.
and not a good one. Not
There
a
you
good
go.
experience. Um, but yeah, look, I get it takes a lot of for these movies to be made, and I don't knock anybody for trying. I think I talked about Akande, giving that a 2.5 star or 2 stars or something like that. I love audacious
Mm,
attempts at, like, swinging for the fences. Sometimes it just doesn't work, but
yep,
with all that preamble said, obviously, I'm rating this 5 stars, obviously, uh,
obviously. Good.
obviously.
I agree. Even though I don't like stars or rating things, which is
Yeah,
weird. And I'm gonna ask you this question because I did not see I'm just gonna jump right ahead and steer it here. So how do you think the director's direction compares to part 2 compared to part 1, besides the IMAX stuff that we talked about?
the direction I think is a lot clearer this time around. It felt Denis was dancing around, "Oh, I can't adapt this part of the novel yet because that has to be held off for part 2." And it just felt like he was holding back a lot.
Mhm.
Great movie. I think I even rated it at 4 or 5 stars when I reviewed it. but I think he's learned a lot from part 1's mistakes,
Mm,
particularly in how to write characters. I don't wanna say write, just the way he utilizes characters feels a lot more organic this time around.
it's not
Uh,
forced.
yeah, there are parts in part 2 that feel a lot more organic. There are moral quandaries being had. Whereas in part 1, it's, "Hey, we need to do this thing. We're doing the thing. Okay, we've done the thing. What are we gonna do now? We're just gonna wander to the desert for a little while." Okay. I'm sure it would make more sense if I read the novel to get some more backstory because I do know things were cut out of part
Yeah,
1 and part 2. And but I just felt like he's grown up and since part 1 and really just said, "Okay, let's just make the most audacious thing possible." Apparently that's the word of the day,
yeah.
audacious.
I was just
Uh
thinking that.
because he just allows himself to do, "Oh, yeah, they think I'm gonna end here? No. I'm gonna go further. I'm gonna go further. I'm gonna explore this world deeper." Even to the point in part 2 where he's changing significant story arcs,
Yep.
of characters in the book from what I've heard. Even just from what I've remembered of the 1984 movie, he's, "Okay, obviously, this character can't do this because this is that wouldn't be how the character acts." He's also just allowing himself to start to creep into that global conflict a
Mhm.
little bit and just say, "Yeah, this is the next Star Wars. Let's go." I hope but yeah, I think that answers the question.
It does, I think s and I think with adaptations, especially just one note on all of that, like, it's a difficult thing because if you're maybe not as experienced at writing or directing, which I'm not saying he isn't, you might feel like you need to include everything in the books one to one. But I think with experience, you give yourself and gain the wisdom that you have the permission to make a better story, to do things that are in service of this grander vision. And from what you said, it sounds like maybe he gained that perspective with part two.
Yeah, I feel that part 1 was very interior, just let's explore the Atreides family, what they're like, let's get this set up so that when we if we do get green lighted for our part 2, we can expand on, okay, who really are these characters when they're forced outside of their comfort zone, when everything they know is gone, and they have to relearn everything.
Do you believe that there was ever really a chance? Because after the first movie came out, there was a lot of talk. He did a lot of interviews saying, we may not get a part two. Do you believe that was actually ever a reality or if it was just to drum up maybe hype? Because there's been some of that with this one, right? They've talked about, Arky's talked about, I don't know if we're going to do a third, when it's going to happen. And I feel like we've seen this before.
Yeah, I think it's a multifaceted answer. I think it's a yes and no. I think it's a yes. He clearly was like goading Warner Brothers and hey, this might not be successful, but I left you on a massive cliffhanger that everyone wants answered. And he did it again in part 2 to leave room for Dune Messiah, as I'm told that's what's coming next. I don't know anything about the books other than what I've researched.
And just
Um,
what we saw in this little, that the twist, right? That we'll talk about
yeah.
in the spoilers.
Yeah, and then the no part of it is I think with you don't have that financial stability that you would have with an Avengers Endgame
Mhm.
or something like with a big budget film where this established franchise. Yes, I know there were other incarnations of Dune, but this book has long been considered unadaptable for a long period of time since it came out, that anytime someone would mention a film adaptation, they're like, "Oh, you absolutely can't do it. It's too massive in scope."
Mhm.
So I think it was him also voicing concerns of, "Hey, if this doesn't make money at the box office, we can't make a part 2 because Warner Brothers won't let us." And I think that's the same thing here. Oop, knocked my microphone.
Yeah, and I just wanna throw this out there, I think I saw the figure and again, it's Hollywood accounting, you don't know what's actually real or what's being buzzed, but I saw that, like, Dune Part 2 needs to make $500 million to break even. I think it's doable with the global market, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's already made. I say made in the sense of
Box office
ticket
receipts.
ticket sales. Yeah. I think the last count I saw was 187,000,000 worldwide.
That's a
Um,
healthy chunk.
yeah, if you gotta get to 500, I know people who still haven't seen it, I imagine all the Dune Part 2 memes are gonna I don't like memes forcing people to see things, but I think it's gonna work here, where everyone's gonna feel that sense of FOMO, fear of missing out, that they're just gonna be like, "Okay, we have to see part 2,
Yeah.
otherwise we get spoiled on the internet because this is the timeline we live in." But yeah.
I think so Anyone But You, which I adored, got like $208 million at the box office. I feel like there's a really good chance for 2.
Yeah, I think 200, 300 is easily within this thing's grasp. I saw like a report saying 800. Either way, I think you sent me an article yesterday
Mhm.
that was talking about Hans Zimmer and how he, before the movie was even out, he plopped Dune Messiah on
On his
Zimmer's
tour.
desk. Yeah. And was just like, start reading, start writing the music for this because we're not done. I definitely think regardless of box office receipts, I think Dune Messiah is getting made. Heck, the letterbox profile is already up for Dune Messiah. That's a pretty healthy indicator to where I think going back to your question about Denis maybe baiting people into, hey, maybe we don't know if we're gonna get a part two. For those who don't remember, Dune 2021 came with opening titles Dune Part 1, and this
Mhm.
says Dune Part 2, so it's okay, I think that's always in the plan to do Dune Part 1.
Yeah.
Then maybe while filming Part 2, he's like, "Okay, we gotta do Dune Messiah."
Yep.
So yeah.
I know we're moving right along with our chat and we're going on to side quests, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Do you wanna So I know we have much more to talk about. I know we have a lot of the acting to talk about too.
Yeah, talking about in the spoiler or general discussion?
General discussion too, right? I think it's
Yeah,
up to you. Whatever you
yes.
think is
So I think Rebecca Ferguson did a lot better job this time around. Rebecca Ferguson was, I think, no, I was just gonna say her performance was like meek, just orbiting around Paul and just trying to make sure he's ready for what comes next. But in this one, she's very much, no, you will do what I say because I am this person now. And I have for, I don't want to get into spoilers, but there are things that happen with her in part two and that really make her like, no, I am my own character now. Same with Timothy Chalamet's Paul Atreides. He's more, oh, let me learn the ways of the desert. And then by the end of it, yeah, things happen, and he really turns into a beast of an actor. I'll just say that. I
yeah,
chills on my sleeve when he's giving a certain speech towards the end of the movie.
I think, yeah, he's become so much more of a confident actor, and I think that happens as you age and you take on more roles, and I thought he was okay before in other things I've seen him in. But when you're gonna be speechifying, you have to have a certain gravitas. You can't just phone it in. You have to inhabit the role, and I think he does that here. And certainly, I'm doing a Royal Pains rewatch instead of watching other things, and he was in Royal Pains, and he's totally grown since Luke in Royal Pains when he was what, a young kid, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a large part of in him taking a lot of roles that I think
Oh,
really
yeah.
challenged him.
Yep.
We'll leave Wonka out of this.
Wonka challenges I well, I think there's something to be gained from any role you take, right? And I think that the musical Willy Wonka, there's a lot more stuff going on there, though it's similar to action and choreography. There's just a lot of things that you might not get to do normally.
Yeah, but yeah, he was great in Bones and All. Was that 2019, 2020? Some
I will tell you shortly because I'm gonna look it up.
it does not feel like part 1 came out 3 years ago. But yeah, I think
Yep.
he really did the work between parts of Dune to really say, "Okay, I need to take serious roles of," and not even just serious roles, just things that challenged him. And
Yeah.
I
Well,
think go ahead.
he had Don't Look Up in between then, and he had like some voice acting things. So there was definitely a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I think same for Rebecca Ferguson. I feel like at least. I might be
We've talked about this. We've talked about how we want to do just a Rebecca Ferguson podcast because
Doctor Sleep.
and
I people need to watch that. I've favored it more over the years. the more years I get away from that movie, I need to watch it again. But she was robbed in Dead Reckoning, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. But listen to
But
my spoiler
it,
level
it
talk about that.
spoiler for Mission Impossible. But
Yeah, spoiler for Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, streaming now on Paramount. Yeah, she dies,
yeah.
and it's just I know she had probably obligations with Dune Part 2 that interfered, but laziest character death since, Talia al Ghul in Dark Knight Rises.
Oh, that's a fair comparison, I think. That's also been a while out. I really love her. I think I love Silo, as I've said before, and I guess she was filming that at the same time as Dune. I don't know how that all works, but that is such a gritty role. It's such cool science fiction, and it's on Apple TV Plus. There's going to be a season 2, so like you can watch and get into season 1 and not worry about it ending at a cliffhanger without ever being filled. Sorry, Netflix. So there's a lot of good stuff there.
Yeah, but I need to see that. It's funny because I wait for Apple TV Plus shows to end or reach their season finale, except for All Mankind for whatever reason.
That's a really good
Um,
show. It's
the last season was iffy, but
oh, we need to talk about that. Not today, but
yeah, another time. We could have a whole
add it to the list.
yeah. When it hits Blu-ray, we'll talk about For All Mankind again. Um, please renew for season 5, regardless. Um, but yeah, because I know people are concerned about that. But anyways, I will watch Silo. I just need to open up Apple TV Plus and watch that because I'd been meaning to. Same with the Big Door Prize and stuff like that.
Yeah. Don't watch
Um,
Hello Tomorrow because apparently no one remembers it, and it's probably not going to get a season 2, even though it was really
look, I'll watch anything with Billy Crudup,
cute. That's fair.
except for apparently the morning show. I just remembered he's in that. I haven't watched a single episode. But yeah, I maybe just starring roles for him. But
Okay.
yeah, but I guess moving on to I know I already talked about Austin Butler,
Hmm.
Florence Pugh, Christopher Walken. I would love to hear your opinions on the new characters.
I'll start with Christopher Walken because that was also a fun impression earlier. For me, it's hard not to see Christopher Walken as Christopher Walken, even though he's approaching this with a lot of seriousness and all the heft that you want to approach the Emperor role, the known universe, and all that. He's still Christopher Walken. I think more of the chameleon for me, and I don't know if it's because he's young and it hasn't been typecast, although that's probably not the right word, is Austin Butler. I thought he was great. I thought he inhabited Fade. I think that's, I don't know if it's method acting. Reportedly, he was a method actor for Elvis. I don't know. But he was just so creepy and so believable as being so creepy. And I think that was so elevated by everyone just working to make this movie, from the costumes and the makeup and your the cinematography. Just it was really interesting. I just keep thinking about the duel I can't talk about because it's a spoiler. Um,
You know?
that it yeah, I thought he fit in very well.
Yeah, well, I can't talk about that scene, can I?
We're gonna have to
Well,
do a part 2 spoiler podcast. I think this is our non-spoiler podcast.
yeah, probably. But there's it's in the trailer. It's in the trailer. Um, where he like licks a knife. I was like, dude,
Yep.
what are you doing? In
So
the best way,
creepy.
not in the worst way. Not in the what are you doing? But what are you doing?
And it fits with his character, right? It's not tonally out of place. It's not just a random thing. Like it that yes, that character would do that weird thing and you believe it.
Yeah, and there's this look he gives somebody. I won't say who
Was
because
it the improvised thing?
no, but that's a good thing to call out. But there's a scene I can't say where. I'll just say he gives a look to somebody, and I'm like, "Holy cow, he is doing so much with 0 eyebrows." Like, just so much forehead acting. Just, like, there's a look where he's, like a look of surprise he gives towards the end of the movie where I'm like, "Dude, holy cow." That says so much without him even speaking a word. He's really good at that for whatever reason. Austin Butler.
I think it's why he keeps getting cast in things, right? He's in Masters of the Air. he's an expressive actor. He's a very talented actor, and I think that's why he gets these roles.
Yeah, he's gonna be in the Bike Riders this summer.
Yes, I know the trailer just got released and people were very excited.
I think it's releasing in July. I'll be interested to see that now that it's switched from, I believe it was Searchlight to Focus.
Something like that.
But yeah, Butler does great. I think Christopher Walken here reminds me of a mix of his Seven Psychopaths character and Jungle Book 2016.
Wow.
Because there's scenes where he's just sitting on his throne like this, and I'm like, "Oh, that's like the orangutan from Jungle Book right there." And then there's scenes where he's just in delightful glee at something horrible that has just happened, like something that could mess up his entire plans, and he just laughs the whole time, which reminded me of Seven Psychopaths. I'd be interested to see if he shows up in the 3rd film. I
That would
don't
be a
think he will,
spoiler. I don't know. We'll talk about that.
but yeah, I guess that's all I think I have to say about non-spoilers. Uh,
Cool.
do we wanna get into spoilers? Because I feel like that's a lot of what we have to say. Alright, so now let's talk spoilers for Dune Part 2. If you haven't seen Dune Part 2, take your headphones off like this, turn the podcast off, just come back when you've watched the movie, whether that's months from now, whether
It
that's
should be tomorrow.
yeah, it should be tomorrow. We need to see Dune Messiah. Be like that viral Threads post and where Denny is asking for I'll have to put it in the show notes, but somebody like did a joke meme of Denis asking people to buy 10 more IMAX tickets so that Dune Messiah could get made. Um,
On a sad note, it's so there's a meme going around Twitter or whatever. I guess the artist formerly known as Twitter now about Coyote versus Acme, which has reportedly been scrapped, and people are like, if everyone just buys one share of Warner Brothers, maybe we can convince them to release the movie.
yeah, or just release it on Max. I feel like that's the easiest way. But tax breaks.
Yeah, a whole nother discussion.
Yeah, a whole nother discussion that I feel like we need to have. I could talk for 3 hours about that. But yeah, if you haven't watched Dune Part 2, or and if you care about spoilers, stop listening now. Otherwise, let's talk spoilers for Dune Part 2.
Yay.
The big question, I guess one of the big questions. You've read the books, right?
The first one, not the remaining 5.
Having read the book, do you think there were any surprises or changes from the source material for you that really changed your outlook on how different part 2 was from the actual book? Did it add to the narrative or weaken it?
So there were
Um,
some pretty big things. So Count Fenric, pronouncing that wrong, wasn't there, but his clad wife was tempting fate. And I think that really worked for his story and worked within his character's arc as this not final test, but as this
mhm.
Aaliyah treaties, which were spoilers, so we can talk about it, is different to the water of life exposure is there, but it's different in the book than it is here, or in the book than it is here. We only see this glimpse of her, played by Anya Taylor Joy, in I guess the future, and then most of her thing is like this telepathic, creepy baby communication in the womb, which is an interesting way of handling
And can I talk about that for a
it.
second? Specifically, so everyone can hear my thoughts on it. Yo, fuck Variety for spoiling that.
Yes.
I was just on my phone looking at emails. I get emails from Variety. I subscribe to some of their newsletters, and I saw this on my phone weeks before I could see
Yep.
part 2. What are you doing?
Yep.
Variety, get out of here. Quit the game. Just
And
go
it's
to an awards only website or something. Your critics consistently spoil major events of a film, whether it be Marvel, DC, whatever. It's abhorrent at this point. Get out
it's
of the
not
game.
Yeah, it's not the first time they've done it, like you mentioned. And I wanna think I don't know, is it possible that they have permission and the okay to do this, or are they just really that tone deaf?
I think it's the second answer. I think it's they are really that tone deaf because I don't see I didn't see Anya Taylor-Joy tweeting about it. I didn't
No.
see anyone else
Even though she was
talking
at the
about it.
premiere and she's in this get-up that you're there's going to be coverage of.
Yeah. I feel like photographers were told, "Hey, yes, you can take Anya Taylor-Joy's photo. Don't say why she's here."
Yep.
Because
Supporting
you
her
have
friends.
yeah, you could just say, "Hey, the Anya Taylor-Joy makes a surprise appearance at the Dune Part 2 premiere." Anyways, unless it needs to be said again, I'm gonna clip this and call it "fuck variety" or something like that because, wow, that was a
Censored. No.
yeah, yeah, in American fiction, which I'm also recording a podcast of this week. But anyways, yeah, so that's interesting to hear. So the water of life function, it functions differently? How is
And then
that?
the exposure to her, like, I think she's born ahead of before she's exposed to the water of life. I don't quite remember. I'm gonna have to look it up, but it just from what I remember, it's very different than it is in the book. I think the function is still the same. You still get it's only women, it's still millennia of pain and wisdom, but I think it awakens like her differently and her consciousness differently.
Would you say the sleeper has awakened?
No, we'll
Um,
see.
for anyone who doesn't get that reference, that's a line that Kyle MacLachlan makes in the middle of the desert, standing with Chani. He just screams at the top of his lungs, "The sleeper has awakened," in the middle of Arrakis. "The sleeper has awakened." Okay, all right, but
We're
yeah,
meant to think that's very significant.
yeah, but yeah, in the '84, I almost said '84 book, '84 film by Lynch, I remember the pregnancy being pretty rushed.
Yeah.
I don't even think they cover the Mother Reverend stuff or
Mhm.
Reverend Mother
I think she's
stuff in
born in the book.
yeah,
I
she
remember
is
right, yeah.
born by the she's the one who kills the Baron. She's the one who does it and walks around, creepy blue eyes and all
The
that
Baron
thing.
Dave.
So that's a very I think I that's the only significant change I noticed. I know Chani has changed
Mhm.
because I remember in the '84 like, I wanna say book. Why do I wanna say '84 book? Maybe because 1984 was a book,
That could be
but in the
different
David
book
Lynch
though,
film
different
yeah, but in the Lynch film, I know Chani is much more of a, like, pacifist. He just goes along with what Paul does,
and she's a
and
fighter here. And she's very much like that. She's very much not the antithesis of faith and prophecy, but she's the embodiment of what you need to do to get what you want.
yeah, and yeah, she's given more agency, I
Yeah.
think, rather
Just
than
in general, which is delightful in this movie. The women have a lot more agency, I think, but that's another question.
yeah, that perfectly brings me to my next question, like, how what did you think of the arcs for Paul, Lady Jessica, and other key characters? Did they get more fleshed out stories for the supporting characters? What did you think of the arcs for
I
each
think
character?
I think for the women, they got more brought to the forefront of the movie. They were more fleshed out, and I think it was like a counterbalance to the whole Messiah white savior narrative. I think it worked. I read that there's going to be a TV show for the women, but that was quite a long time ago, and I don't know if this Dune sisterhood thing is still happening. Denis was going to direct the pilot and write the pilot, and I don't know if that's something still in the pipeline. I thought that I just thought it was a really wonderful balance for these 3 characters.
Yeah, there's a line Chani has where and it's in the trailer, where it's like this prophecy is how they enslave us. And I think giving her that power to just say, "No, I'm gonna call you out on your bullshit," is just such it works a lot better because I think and same with Lady Jessica now, the Reverend Mother, that they're given a lot more agency to say no or yes, do this thing or because I think a large part of the Dune narrative that I've seen over part 1 and part 2 is the poisoning of Paul's mind by those around him. Poisoned by Chani if you go south,
There will be war, right? Holy war.
yeah, there'll be holy war and you won't be the same person. You've got to promise me you stay the same person. He's being poisoned by his mom, the Reverend Mother, Lady Jessica, by you've got to go south and drink the water of life because you are Lisan al Gaib. He's being poisoned by Stilgar, everyone around him. Just so I think that's given a lot more authenticity by saying by Chani being that sounding board for Paul.
Not only the sounding board, but literally at the end, she won't kiss the ring. Like she is appalled by what he's essentially become after he's vanquished isn't the right word for the emperor for Mr. Christopher Walken. He's neutralized him when just she's not having any of it. And I think that will be interesting as that diverges more from how the books are and where we go with that because Zendaya is such a powerful actress. It will be really cool to see them take full advantage of that.
Yeah, and I feel like that's where they're heading anyways, with her at the end just being the only one that stays behind, essentially.
So I know you said that you didn't read the book, but do you feel like you got really grounded in the world building? Like, do you think that this was a really fleshed out science fiction universe?
This is gonna be one of my other cop out answers, yes and no. Yes, in the terms of I feel like I got more of a sense of Arrakis and Yeti Prime and some of the supporting characters. However, no, because I feel like I don't think we get enough time with some things like, uh, there's a line of the houses have denied your ascendancy, and I don't get an outside perspective at all in this movie, other than the Emperor and Princess Irulan and a few other named characters. I really wish we had seen, okay, outside of the Emperor, outside of all this imperial conflict, what do the other houses think about Paul? Like, what I feel like there's some things that are missing from that overall narrative, that line about these houses have declined your ascendancy. It would have been much more powerful seeing that because I feel like if you're leading into a holy war against these other houses that deny his ascendancy, it would have been better to see the houses talk about what's happening on Arrakis, or I don't know if that's in the books, but I would have loved to see something where we get clued in very early on that other people are vying for the throne and other people are trying to usurp the emperor.
Again, I wonder if that's something we're going to see as time goes on after we've spent our time in the deserts and see it more on these ships and see it more with people who are in the other houses that are not fans of his ascendancy. I find it interesting too because I think that this is very much a story of Paul from other perspectives, not so much from his perspective. We're seeing him how Chani sees him. We're seeing him at the very start of the film. There's these letters, there's Princess Ireland. We're seeing how she thinks about him and how she's intrigued about him. And I do think there's room for more of the houses, for more perspective on like it's almost as if he's not driving the ship. Everyone else is like centered on him and but I don't know. I didn't phrase that very well.
No, I think that made me think about like Princess Ireland's role is really expanding outside of the emperor. What do other people think about Paul, and why is this story so centralized on Paul and things like that, where you really get a larger scope of things. Yeah.
It's a Marsha, but it's Paul.
But yeah, I think yeah, I just would love to see that because and maybe it was like a time constraint where
Mhm.
Denis was like, "I can't make this movie a 4-hour movie." Um,
Unless
because
you're the director of Napoleon or the director of Rebel Moon and get your special cut.
I feel like Denis has earned a 3.5 hour movie. I'll just say that because yeah, I just felt regarding the pacing I was talking about earlier about a little bit more later, but yeah, I just felt like a 4-hour movie of this would have been better. But anyways, I'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, let's do we want to talk about the universe?
Do you mean like the themes or do you mean because I know like we talked in the like in our chat a little bit. I know you had a lot of things you wanted to share about the themes because I know they really were interesting to you and
Yeah, so this movie expands more on what I loved from part 1, which was and they even say it in the movie, religious fundamentalism and the fanaticism that I think was hinted at in part 1, right when Paul and Jessica arrive on Arrakis, they start calling him Lisan just because the Bene Gesserit has planted that idea over thousands of years on Arrakis.
It's been a
Um,
long con of manipulation, and Stilgar believes it, right? He totally believes this is the guy.
yeah, there's that meme out there where I even shared one where I was like, when airdrop works on the first time, and it's a frame of Stilgar staring in disbelief, Lisan al Gaib, because airdrop does not work all the time.
It does
It,
not, no.
um, but
Even if you're
yeah,
sitting right next to it,
my MacBook is not even 5 feet away.
it
Yeah. Anyways, but yeah, I feel like it expanded on more on that, even getting to the point where Reverend Mother has tattoos all over her face, and the
Mhm.
more you get into the film, the more jewelry and things she has on her, even to the point where she rides a sandworm in this little pod thing, like a I forget what they call it in the Middle East, but there's this thing you would put on an elephant.
It's not
Um,
I know what you mean, but I can't think of the name either. It's not a
but yeah,
saddle.
yeah, it's not a saddle. They'd have 4 poles running through it.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's the Dune equivalent of that, and you really start to see what is the dangers of just believing in something so blindly that you won't even see any alternative. Like Stilgar, again, we're gonna talk about Stilgar a lot,
Javier
because he
Bardem.
yeah, Javier Bardem, because he's at the core of this religious, fanaticism.
He's
Um
helping Paul convince himself in some ways.
Yeah, because he says to Paul after "I'm not the lisan al gaib," but he just denies everything. "I just know this thing because I've been fighting Harkonnens thousands of years." And it's so characteristic of the lisan al gaib to be so humble or whatever, he says, and it's, "Oh, you're just that blinded by this prophecy that you're willing to." And I guess this is where the Star Wars parallels come in. You're so blinded by the
There's so many.
prophecy. Sorry for all the Dune fans out there, I gotta mention it. As a Star Wars fans, I see it. So,
Well,
um,
look, so the hero's journey, universal storytelling, there's some stuff that you're going to hit upon with every big epic story that you're bringing to screen.
yeah, and the Jedi Council believes so much in this prophecy, everyone believes in so much of this prophecy that it blinds them to what's really happening and what happens at the end of the film, which is the spark that ignites the holy war.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I love that part of it. I That's the major improvement from part 1 I see, just from the narrative standpoint.
Do you think the ending was satisfying, or was there more that you wanted?
No, because it felt too much like part 1's ending, because part 1 famously ends with, uh, Chani saying to Paul, "This is only the beginning," and then credits, Dune part yeah, it doesn't even say Dune part 1 anymore, it says just Dune, which is confusing given the opening credits are Dune part 1. Anyways, I re can you tell I rewatched Dune part 1 recently?
That's a
But
valid thing, though, and it is strange considering how Dune Part 1 was that promise was there.
yeah, and then part 2 ends very much in the same way of I believe I forget which character is talking about it, but talking about this holy war starting. I can't remember if it's the, Reverend Mother Jessica or oh, what's the name of the baby? Um,
Not Aaliyah.
not Aaliyah. Or Aaliyah?
I think that we're I think it's Aaliyah.
Okay, I'll take I don't read character sheets. Anyways, it's either Lady Jessica or not Aaliyah?
It's like Alia,
Okay.
I
It's
think.
either of those 2 characters saying, "This is the spark that ignites the holy war," or some variation of mentioning a holy war starting, and then slam the credits. And the thing that I was gonna mention earlier, but couldn't because spoilers, was I thought the speech that Paul has right after drinking the water of life, going into that mosque,
When
was
everyone is
going to
gathered and he
yeah,
drinks
when
the
everyone was
power.
you would do the knife raise, and that would be it.
Mhm.
Right? That would be the slam to credits. because that makes more sense to me because I don't for me, again, I'm coming at this from the mindset of I've seen the Lynch film and basically that's it, right?
Yeah.
That film treats the usurping of the Emperor Shaddam IV and the killing of the Baron as this like climactic action.
Mhm.
That is the end of the movie. So I was like, okay, I'm looking for something different. That is the end goal that you're going to. I don't know anything about a holy war other than what's been teased in Dune Part One, and then stuff that happens in Part Two, where it's like, oh, I if I go south, I might ignite the holy war.
Yeah.
So I was expecting that part where he raises the knife in the middle of the mosque and says, gives all these intricate details to this guy about how his mom died by her head being bashed in by a rock or something.
Yeah.
I thought that was gonna be the end because it's like, this is the moment that proves this is Lisan al-Gaib, which
It
is
just
what go ahead.
they just kept putting the button on it and putting the button on it, and just there wasn't a clear moment to stop almost.
Yeah, because part 1 very much teases that, like, no, like, once Paul turns into Lisan al-Gaib, that is the, like, turning point for the entire story. So I was like, "Okay, that's gonna be the button. That's gonna be the bow that wraps part 2 up." So when it keeps going for another 30 minutes after that, I'm like, "Dude, what are you doing? I can have another 30 minutes, that's fine, but I would rather that 30 minutes be spent elsewhere. Let's build up Feyd-Rautha, let's build up Princess Arlan, build up Emperor Shaddam IV, all these new characters." Because we do have some significant time skipping in the start of this movie and
Yeah.
in the start of part 2, and it's just, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, I need to see that," because that's like a because the ending of part 2 is very much, is Paul gonna reject Chani and just become the totally evil person, that she fears he could be and just be like everyone else? Or will he stay true to himself and actually give Fremen the ability to rule over themselves, over Arrakis? Um,
Interestingly, about Chani, there's this moment, and this I do know this about Dune Messiah, that and, in relation to the timeline, so they have a child together
yeah,
eventually in the books, and there's a moment where Chani, I don't know if you were paying attention, like, has this blue thing she puts on her arm, and that means she's pregnant, and I wonder if that is part of how they're going to have these 2 characters come crashing into each other again and have us see them together for the rest of that.
that's interesting because that the film never explains that.
Nope, and it's
She
just a book thing.
so it's like that's one of those things that I would expected to be expanded on. I know it comes later that you see that revelation, but that was even something covered in the '84 movie,
Mhm.
where once they have sex, that's the kid of Paul.
Yep,
I think Leto the second or something like that.
yeah,
But yeah, it was something covered in the book, so I was expecting that to happen by the end of this. So it's yeah, that was the big problem I had. Is just there's stuff I would stuff into those 30 minutes to where Dune Messiah would start with that spark that
yeah,
ignites the Holy War, and then you could spend that entire act 2 and 3 exploring the galaxy and seeing Paul's Holy War. And
yeah.
then if they wanted to do, heaven forbid, a 4th Dune movie, um,
4th and 5th and 10 more films.
yeah, if they really wanted to expand it, you could go to Children of Dune and stuff like that, or even just Dune Messiah Part 1 and Part 2. But yeah, I then that would have been my preference, but again, I'm not the editor, and it's very clear that where Part 2 ends is where Dune Messiah will
Yeah,
pick up.
pick up, yeah.
Um,
Is there anything final that you want that we didn't talk about to share about Dune or to
gosh, that's I think the big thing for me about Dune Part 2, and maybe I'll cover this in my likely 3,000 word review. I've got a lot to say about Dune Part 2, mainly talking about religious fanaticism
Yeah,
because it's so core to this movie. But I think the only thing I would have to add is I wish that certain things were explained a lot better than they were.
mhm,
Because like Gurney Halleck.
Yeah.
I
Josh
forget to
Brolin,
mention. Yeah, like he pops up out of nowhere, and you're just like,
he's back, hit with his footsteps.
yeah, oh, I recognize your footsteps. It's okay. I get that's a callback to part one, something he told him in part one. But it felt like there should have been a more momentous occasion for
Mhm.
that. I don't know. There may be some backstory because thinking back to part one, I'm like, there's no way he got out of that alive. And in fact, before you see his face, I thought Duncan Idaho made it out alive.
Oh.
Because I literally said to my mom, who was sitting to my right in the movie theater, "Is Duncan Idaho back? Is he back?" And I'm like, "If that's Duncan Idaho, man, that's crazy." But then you see Josh Brolin, and it's, "Oh, okay, so how did he survive?" And then it just never is explained.
I need to make a joke somehow about Thanos being inevitable and Josh Brolin being inevitable, but even in Dune, but I don't know if that'll work.
He is inevitable. Josh Brolin surviving, like, except for he's not in Deadpool 3.
I don't
So,
know.
we'll find out. I'm sure there'll be a second trailer in 2 months that here's all the people from Deadpool 2, because you'd feel like I don't wanna spoil. Can we spoil Deadpool 2? It
Sure, I think it's been out for many years at this point. I think it's okay.
I feel
I
like
haven't seen it, but that's okay.
I feel like Cable would be a lot more upset at Deadpool for fixing his time turner thing, to because that's what happens at the end of Deadpool 2 is he fixes it and
Mm.
goes back and saves X-Force, saves his girlfriend, Vanessa, and basically changes the events, and that's what leads up to Dune, not Dune, Deadpool and Wolverine. Uh,
It could
but
lead up to Dune. I don't know. We talked about Kung Fu Panda and Dune. Deadpool is totally workable.
yeah, but yeah, I just think I would have loved, more backstory with that 30 minutes, even if it's gotta be a 4-hour movie.
Yeah.
Because 'cause I'll sit in a 4-hour movie if it makes sense. John Wick Chapter 4 came out this time last year,
Well,
around
that
this
wasn't
time.
as long as this, was it? It was over 2 hours, I remember.
Yeah, I feel like it was pretty long.
This was
But
like an out yeah, sorry.
no, you're good. But yeah, Oppenheimer, I
You're
think, was
right,
3
wow.
hours. Um,
John Wick was 2 hours and 49 minutes. Wow.
yeah, so pretty close, bumping pretty close to that 3 hours,
Yep.
and I think this is pretty close to that as well, and I didn't have any problem with John Wick Chapter 4 because every single thing they did made sense, but in Dune Part 2, there's some things where I'm like, "Okay, how's Gurney alive? Why weren't we told about X, Y, or Z?" Maybe that comes up in Dune Messiah.
There's more
I
world building and more questions that need answers.
Yeah, but I'll be interested to see that. Yeah, that's my only complaint is give me more time in this universe before you start revealing like that Paul isn't actually an Atreides and Lady Jessica isn't actually an Atreides.
He's a Harkonnen.
Yeah, he's a Harkonnen. I feel like that's a big reveal, but
It's a
it's just
huge
this like
reveal.
2 minute scene, maybe. Paul has the water of life and immediately is like, why didn't you tell me you were Harkonnen?" "Oh, I didn't know till I took the water of life." "Oh,
Yep.
you didn't know?" I feel like you're a Bene Gesserit, and I feel like they have the power to see things like that, but I
Apparently
haven't
not.
read the books. But yeah, if I had any message to Denis or any of the creative team for Dune Messiah, take your time. I don't need another 3 year wait. I can go 6 years for Dune Messiah if it means that what you make is properly fleshed out and I'm not feeling like I missed certain elements of the book. Not even certain elements of the book, like certain key plot points. Because I went back and watched the Screen Crush video
Yeah.
on Dune Part 2, and I'm like, "Oh, that happened in the book? That happened in the book? Oh, Thufir, one of the Mentats of the
Oh.
Atreides, is in." I totally forgot he was in the '84 film helping the Harkonnens. But yeah, just don't feel like you have to cut things because,
And he cut things here too, interestingly, and I think he did interviews where he said that it was painful having to cut some of the things that they took out. So I'm curious when the deleted scenes will be released, if they'll add context and add any more.
he's not. He was asked about that,
Oh,
I think in the same interview, And he's, "Oh, we get, like, a director's cut or the deleted scenes or anything like that," and he's, "No." I even talked about it on Threads. I'm like, "Dude, just you don't do any editing to the deleted scenes. That's all literally just hand it off to their
Mhm.
home entertainment
People.
team, whoever that is. Hand off the deleted scenes, just pick up the file from Premiere Pro or DaVinci Resolve, export it, do whatever you gotta do, send it into the color grader because I'm sure maybe those scenes don't have color grading on them. Heck, some of the Infinity War deleted scenes are only like previs. Thing with Endgame. One of the best things about buying a movie on digital or Blu-ray or whatever is seeing what could have been, even if it doesn't make sense. So you could be like, "Oh, this is like insight into something that could have happened, but I'm glad it didn't happen because of X,
Besides
Y,
that
and Z."
besides the idea that no one's gonna delete your DVD or Blu-ray.
Besides that, yeah, besides owning it. Because I will say, and this is, I guess, another tangent, Voodoo is changing its name or something like that to Fandango at Home or something.
Oh,
Voodoo, you are the worst digital movie provider I have ever seen. I went to go look for a certain movie a few weeks back when I saw the name change. Why, oh why, are some of my movies that are compatible with Movies Anywhere not in my video Vudu
oh,
library. It happened with I believe it was called Fandango Now as well. Like, I would buy movies and then I wouldn't get any notification, they would just delete them.
yep,
And I'm like, "Dude, I don't wanna have to keep purchasing these movies."
yep,
And I can only do digital because I don't have the storage space to store movies or,
yep.
discs. So it's anyways, but rant aside, I hope that Dune Messiah. I feel like I'm talking bad about Dune Part 2. I love Dune Part 2. I would see it again right now.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and I don't think you're it's a critical discussion, right? It's a fair discussion of all the things. So it's not we could sit and say, "I love this movie, it was great," but
Still a 5 star for me. I'm a nitpicky person. Like, I if certain things aren't explained to me, it frustrates me.
mhm.
And not in the Mean Girls way of there's literally and I don't mean to bag on Mean Girls.
But it's just what you saw recently, so it's fresh in
Yeah.
your
But they literally have a line about, "Here's the context of this." They say this line in a musical scene and just tell you the context. Here's what happened, uh, in this in this backstory of this character.
yeah.
And I'm like, "That's not what context is. That's not you." It's the classic case of show, don't tell
Instead of
us.
telling yeah.
So, yeah, I just wish the thing of telling I think Stilgar is the one who tells Paul that they have rejected your ascendancy,
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Dude, it would be so much cooler if if there was a scene in there where it's like Stilgar or whoever sends the message, and then you get a reaction shot of each 5
Yep.
houses. Here's send the message, "We reject his ascendancy," and the interior meetings that they have.
Yep.
Maybe that would make it 4 hours, but I'm more than willing to sit 4 hours, 4 hours if it makes sense.
And I think that's a good final note, right?
Yeah.
Next time, make a longer movie.
Yeah, just make the movie that is required. If a book's 1,100 pages, make the thing like, make that you don't have to do one to one. Just
Mhm.
make the adaptions where it fits, and then just go home.
Yep.
Leave it to the editors, you know, just I know they have that thing of kill your babies, but in this situation, I feel like there's 30 minutes on the cutting room floor missing, just like in a project backup file somewhere in
Yep.
DaVinci or Premiere Pro, and I'm like, dude, just release it.
Yep.
Release the deleted scenes because I need the context. Just give me the context in Dune Messiah. With that said, I think that's a good place to leave off.
Yeah. Will we be releasing the deleted scenes, the uncolor graded scenes from the podcast?
Yeah, I'll just release the whole thing for patrons if that's something y'all want to see. I sure it'll just take a lot longer. Maybe I'll do that. I'll start releasing uncut episodes. Just here's the whole raw video file.
Yeah.
But with that said, thank you, all of you, for listening or watching. If you're on YouTube, or you can watch on Spotify too. Yeah, it's weird. Somebody put the whole Five Nights at Freddy's movie up on Spotify recently.
Oh, that's
It's still up.
wow.
Uh, yeah, but Spotify, the Wild West podcast. Um, But thanks, yeah, just thanks for listening and watching, whatever you're doing. I've been your host, Austin Belzer. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a rating where applicable, and review it on your favorite podcast app if that's a feature in your a podcast app. You can follow me on Austin B Media, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, Mastodon, and Threads. If you're on Letterboxd, I'm on there as Austin B Movies. Isla, where can people find you?
So I am you can find me at movieswetextedabou.com, and I'm also on Twitter as TULAN Rights, and I'm on Letterboxd as the same thing.
Awesome. I hope to have you back for maybe Invincible or something like that.
Be fun.
Yeah, because I, yeah, keep an eye on that, everyone listening and watching. I saw that a while ago, and I'm trying not to spoil it. But yeah, have a good day, everyone, and thanks for listening.